You know, I was really hoping that me talking would kill the music, but it didn't.
Okay, let's get going. I've got to say, I cut it off during the nice part of the music. The back end of that song is absolutely terrible. Okay, so this is one of the last online circles of the year. Thank you everyone for joining throughout 2025. Hopefully you stay with us throughout 2026. And I'm going to pass over to Sterling to kick things off for us.
Thank you, sir. Welcome, friends, to another Logo Circles. This one, of course, is a special Logo Circles because we are going to cover today a year-end review of Logo Circles. And then we'll also, of course, we're going to talk about the past, but we're also going to speak about the future, and we'll start thinking about what rebuilding civil society looks like as we move into the future. We thank all of you who are here with us today. Of course, we are moving directly into the holiday season for those of you who celebrate. And so this should be a very relaxed and chill episode of Logo Circles. Cool. So let me start with the The disclaimers, as per usual, part of the regime, the program, the ritual, whatever you want to call it. So number one is any ideas, thoughts, philosophies, or notions, aberrant notions that we share. Those are not affiliated with the Logos brand or identity and are a product of our own minds and thought. Disclaimer number two, if we happen to mention any kind of cryptocurrency or blockchain project, this is not any kind of financial advice. It is not an idea that you should YOLO into a project. Do that at your own peril and your own risk. Number three is this is a community space. Very specifically, the Thursday space is a community space. This is likely going to be a bit more of an intimate setting here, and you're more than welcome to come up and speak and talk about the ideas with us, especially as we get into the more open discussion segment for today. So thank you all for being here, and we're going to have a fantastic discussion, and I can't wait to hear the review myself because I always learn something new in the process. So let's go ahead and kick it off. I am keen to learn who would like to start today. I'm assuming Roxana or Amelia will probably Amelia, if I were to guess. We'll start the review segment off and we'll rock and roll.
Yeah, I'm really happy to kick things off. Also, if anyone here is joining who's stewarding one of the logo circles, like would absolutely love to hear your year in review in your circle, because I think there's will be so much that I don't know that's happening that's cool that you guys are doing. And girl, I see you here leading the Porto Circle. I think this has been one of the most inspiring winnable issues we've seen pop up. So yeah, feel free to jump in and contribute at any time. Yeah, so I'll try not to ramble forever, but I mean, it's been a huge year for circles, right? So it all kind of started off in May. We had our first circle in Lisbon, and I think we didn't quite know what to expect. We held this circle in the same week as NFC Lisbon, so we ended up attracting a lot of kind of Web3 interested NFT types, which, we managed to sell circles and activism and privacy to some of them, but not all. So we got off to a pretty interesting start. And it was cool to see, like, first of all, in that circle, once you direct the conversation into issues that people care about, you can kind of see it's not something that everybody there is going to be super interested in. And like, I think even in that first circle, we had someone leave. And it's like, that's cool, that's fine. Not everybody wants to kind of put their hands in and start volunteering their time and contributing to something bigger than themselves. And, volunteering their time, it's not something that's super common in Web3, right? Like, yeah, in activism it is, in lots of other types of organizing it is, but what we're trying to do is super different. And it was apparent from the start, right, that what we're trying to do something completely new with this type of organizing. So after that first circle in Lisbon, I think it was Chair who kind of started the next circle in LA, and then Brno popped up with Václav leading that, one of the Logo Solutions engineers. And we started to see kind of an excitement build quite quickly around circles. It was kind of at this time that people started seeing and understanding circles as something, kind of bringing back this narrative I think a lot of us lost post 2019, of why don't we use this technology to actually build new systems that are serving people who are otherwise unserved in certain areas. So obviously in 2019 we saw this with the rise of decentralized finance, and unbanking the unbanked, all that kind of thing. And now with this huge meta narrative of network states, right, and kind of pop-up cities and parallel societies, circles has been a way of thinking about, okay, well, what if we start disaggregating other services from the state, right? Like, so finance we've kind of managed to do already, Bitcoin and then DeFi. And now through looking at these circles, and seeing different local issues, seeing where the state is failing to provide adequate services in other areas, we can start building alternative solutions. So I think that was kind of a turning point after Chair and Václav were leading those two circles in, I believe it was June. Um, for me, one of the other kind of key milestones after that would be our trip to Zanzalu, and the work that we did in Zanzibar. So I think everyone here has heard this so many times, so I don't want to get too into the weeds, but essentially we were able uh, to fundraise in a peer-to-peer crypto manner for an IT department, to get Raspberry Pis for kids at a school that was serving underserved and very at-risk children. So this was the first winnable issue that we achieved with Circles. And the momentum that gave us, that even just being able to come on spaces and talk about that, to write about it on the LPE, to get people understanding what we're trying to do, off the back of that, we saw a huge increase in the number of people then discovering Circles and reaching out to us on Discord or in our DMs and saying, okay, wait, really, you guys are doing what you're saying you want to do, and inspired by this hyper local impact. And so people wanting to kind of replicate in that in their own cities. So I'm just looking here at our internal metrics dashboard, and in October, we had 8 new cities pop up that were hosting Circles. So kind of off the back of that trip over the summer in September, we were, as a team, kind of heads down, training and onboarding new people to run Circles. And we just saw this huge explosion in October of cities. And yeah, so with that, I mean, some of the new cities, we had Berlin, Prague, Rome, San Jose, Bishkek, Nairobi, Doha. Like it was a month, I think, that Circles really went we went global, and people started coming to us and, you know, wanting to participate and do something. So that was really inspiring and a real turning point for us. And since then, we've just been growing. We've been refining how we're able to onboard people and kind of expanding the team within Logos of people who are, able to kind of help supporting all of the interested people that come in every week who want to start Circles. So we've had 23 different cities this year have Circles, which is amazing. With that, we've kind of had 2 cities already drop off, and only kind of hosted one in the last few months. We haven't seen any kind of interest in continuing them. So that's something for us to learn as well, right? Like, how can we improve our funnel, I would say, because these two, Bishkek was one of them. Like, this would be a key learning that we had in terms of the challenges for Circles. We had a circle at ETH Bishkek, which was the first Ethereum hackathon in Kazakhstan. And unfortunately, there wasn't a WhatsApp group made. There was kind of no follow up on who wanted to steward it. And so we unfortunately, it kind of fizzled out. So yeah, we've had some challenges as well, and some learnings that we've taken from these different circles, especially running them at events and not having anyone permanent as a steward. But that being said, right, some of the winnable issues that the circles are working on that we've done in Lisbon, in Quinta da Mocha, managing to secure the community space for the diaspora community in the social housing neighborhood. We're now looking to fundraise for them to start a music studio in that space, looking to get them grants. The amazing work that Roxana's been doing, working on legislation to present in Parliament in the UK to aid people's fight against having to submit their passports online to watch a YouTube video, right? These insane digital privacy rules that they're bringing into the UK. So yeah, congrats to everyone. I hope Girl will come up at some point and talk about what we've been building in Porto for a domestic violence survivors app. So a really interesting use, really valuable use for domestic violence survivors to actually use privacy technology to avert themselves from surveillance of their abusers. So yeah, it's been a really, really cool year, and kind of seeing us go from no circles to first circle in May, now having 21 active circles. We've had nearly 1,000 people participating in circles over this year. Yeah, super proud of everyone involved and super happy with what we've managed to achieve.
Yeah, well done. We all of us should definitely give ourselves a pat on the back. Amelia, I'm glad also you mentioned the challenges and that we're honest that there are going to be challenges as we continue to push forward with circles because nothing is ever going to line itself up perfectly, right, or work out perfectly. So having an eye to figuring out how to resolve those challenges is going to be really critical, especially moving into the next year and as we begin to spin more of these circles up as more local communities have interest in solving their problems and challenges. There definitely has to be someone who has an eye towards stewarding those that is really passionate about whatever the particular mission of the individual circle is, whatever the winnable issue is. So really critical, amazing year. Cool. So we have, let's see, who would like to speak to this as well? Roxana Chair and Girl is up here as well. So we're kind of keeping the floor open for you guys to explore whatever domain or aspect of circles with the year in review that you want.
I'm happy to go next. We did for London at least. We've done 4 chapters so far. We've done one in July, then we had a bit of a break, and we've done the second one in October, third one in November, fourth one in December. So we've managed to pace it up. I guess I could say that just as a witness and just writing the summaries of the meetups, the discussions that we cover, and kind of where we're going. We see ongoing themes, not ongoing, recurring themes that pop up, such as social mobility, which was raised initially in the first circle, which is quite different in the UK than the US, for example, because in the US, right, social mobility is linked to the American dream, the end goal being the upward social mobility, and that education is the key vehicle to achieve it. Whereas in the UK, the way we perceive social mobility is that the ability or inability of citizens to move from one socioeconomic class to another, and that can be done through intragenerational mobility, like changes in an individual's social status during their lifetime, and intergenerational mobility, which are changes in social status between parents and children, right? So most of most, if not all, of the nuances of social mobility in the UK have been affected after the 2008 economic crisis. Fast forward to the 4th meetup, which was just last week, where we discussed the kind of like the youth unemployment crisis, but also linked to the disillusionment of the current incentives in society, right? So this is particularly among young people, and challenges that we see in creating alternative systems for them to join, and contribute to, that are easy to understand, to ascribe to. So there are recurring themes outside of our winnable issue. Our winnable issue, we identified it in the second gathering, because we realized that all of us who were present there were interested in discussing the digital ID, and we kind of came to the conclusion that the information that was out there. So we based it on the fact that we had a bit of movement from the civil side, which was over 400,000 people that have signed a petition against digital ID in the UK. But we've noticed that the conversation was fairly scattered. So you could find a few posts on X, on Facebook, on Instagram, patchy media coverage that that, as with any media coverage, it picked sides. But we didn't find a platform that really informed people on the actual on the all sides of a digital ID, right? So we have Big Brother Watch that's doing amazing work and campaigning, but their end goal is to raise more funds in getting and campaigning to reach more people. Whereas we believe we're quite complementary to that, but we are better at providing open and honest dialogue. And we have the privacy means to secure that, right, with end-to-end encrypted messaging. And we have the experience with circles of creating sort of like a roundtable discussion where people can express their opinions, but also their beliefs without being judged. So we think that we could go a bit beyond just, hey, this is a platform, this is how we can inform you. This is how you can, write to your MPs, find your MPs. To, by the way, we're happy to enable the setup of face-to-face meetings where people can discuss and have an open dialogue. So that's part of the winnable issue. The second one, as Amelia mentioned, we are actively taking part in dialogue around uh, the digital ID subject within within the House of Lords with different academia and other technologists in London. We kind of stumbled upon that opportunity and just took it. And yeah, we're trying to build a bit more in terms of writing a white paper as well. I think that the fourth meetup that we had last week was very interesting because we had someone that woke up at 5 a.m. in Australia to participate virtually. So we've experimented a bit with the idea of running a hybrid where we could have people that are interested in the dialogue but can't physically participate, and allow them to virtually participate with the intention that at a later date they would join an in-person discussion. So that went well. And we've covered, I think we were able to uncover a possible future winnable issue that will be tied around education and potentially the homeschooling side. So we've learned quite a lot from a professor that joined and explained how homeschooling works, and the kind of stages that which kind of stages in the school life of a child homeschooling works in the UK right now. So we've learned that it actually works for primary school better, because the government has there's again a bottleneck where the government has very specific laws and restrictions, whereas you can't advance in your education path unless you at one point go through school and follow the school route with professors and everything. So that could be a potential winnable issue for a bit later next year. That's something that we want to explore in 2026. Also in 2026 for the London chapter, we want to expand. So we're looking at targeting more universities and having a dialogue with students, because we believe that the topics and the work that we do will involve them quite a bit. And probably the only interesting bit that I could share is that we've kind of figured that some people like to join our circles because they are building something that is in heavy alignment with what we're doing at Logos around sovereignty, around open source initiatives, including hardware. So we're seeing gradually people, one or two people coming in to present and get feedback from the circle on what they are building. So for them, it's an amazing opportunity to get instant feedback, but also be quite aligned on the technology stack and our own principles, which is very nice. End of rant. Sorry.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, and happy merry holiday time. On the Los Angeles side of things, hold on, I have an echo of myself that probably nobody else is hearing. Okay. On the Los Angeles side of things, we have had 5 total meetups thus far. 3 in downtown Los Angeles at the Arts District Brewing Company. 1 at a Venice Beach workspace location. And 1 at the Claremont Craft Ales Brewery, which is about 50 miles due east of downtown Los Angeles, and what I'm calling the Claremont Annex of the Los Angeles Circle. The next session will be a work group at the aforementioned Venice Beach workspace location. Being a harsh critic of myself, I would say I'm very happy with the amount of people and exposure and attendance and alignment, and especially the quality of people that have attended multiple events. And there are a few that, there's a few that have been at 3 of 5, 4 of 5 even. So we are seeing the stickiness and the alignment. I'm quite pleased with that. I don't know whether it was too lofty of an expectation. Perhaps it was, and that I wanted to have something to show in terms of progress on a technical solution, which we have discussed at length. A number of projects. We've been documenting things reasonably well in the Los Angeles Circle thread at the forum at forum.logos.co. So lots to check out over there, as an aside. We have resolved, though, through the efforts of defining the, or at least the first efforts of defining what a technical project management roadmap would look like for these circles ideas, and how they will iterate into, or how they should or might iterate into actual solutions, and the 4-stage plan as it has been defined at this point. We are trying to take the ZK Nextdoor app into stage 3, which would be development, but first we need to define the features and the functionality and the user experience that we're looking for in said application, and keep it as MVP and minimal scope as possible. The reason I'm excited about ZK Nextdoor specifically is I'm excited about local community coordination in general. There are a number of primitives that we'll need in terms of identity and verification in a private, zero-knowledge way that we will need for every app anyway. And so if we can start making progress towards solutions at that point, or at least identify where the gaps are in the logo stack so that we can fill them quickly, I think it will be very useful. And at this point, we're really getting down to the type of work that I want to do, or that I would like to see come out of the circle. So there is a GitHub issue, and it's escaping me at the moment which repo, but there are a number, or maybe it's probably in the thread for sure, but there are a number of FERPs that we want to focus on. If you're not familiar with FERPs, I won't go into it right now, but basically the functionality and usability of the app need to be defined to an adequate level. The reliability and performance, sustainability, supportability, we can save for later. Then we can, once that, and the objective is to have that locked up by the end of the meeting or sooner. If we can get the FERPs defined before the meeting, then we can start planning for actual technical work. Overall, so back to like year in review, we have a number of highly aligned and capable developers all the way up to systems engineers that have been attending the circles, and this is what I'm very excited about, because we're still in the foundation building and tool building phase of this construction project, but we will need to hand it off to the builders like them in order to build the structure that the people will inhabit and use. So overall, I would say I'm very happy to be at the point that we are, and I'm excited to kind of break into the next level of actually producing some output, sort of carving the identity of the Los Angeles Circle as a technical one. And I'm very happy to have annexed Claremont. Reach out to me if you're in Southern California and you'd like to be involved or just attend or otherwise. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Chair. Yeah, good stuff. I'm really, really happy to see how your circles continue to progress, since it's going to be it's so highly technically focused. That's also something that we're trying to really catalyze around the world with other circles as well. So this is
I have one more thing, Sterling. Sorry to jump
Sure.
in.
Oh,
The
you're good.
highlight of my, the highlight of the year, at least thus far in the circle, is that we had one of those aforementioned developers jump in. I think this was the first LA Circle. This was the first one at the Arts District, Bruco. They brought their laptop. They were running Debian 12, whatever the latest Debian Linux mumbo jumbo is. Spun up a Waku, now Logos messaging node from source and the docs with 0 issues, and was running a Waku node in the Bruco. And the feedback was like, so he was very surprised. He's like, there were no issues at all. I just followed the docs and spun up a node from source. Like, and that was early. And so that was right away. I was like, okay, yes. Like, this is like the first feedback that we got from the first circle, and someone has already jumped in and started running nodes. Like, I don't think it could, this is ideal. So we had we were off to the races, and I want to recreate that multiple times next year and more, that feeling at least.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. And indeed, like I was saying, how I feel is having a technical circle. This is a perfect experiment to see how these can develop into the future as well. So thank you for your work in LA. Sweet. All right, we have Girl up here. You're welcome to speak to what you're working on as well.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm in a different, hi everyone, happy Christmas. I'm going to be running, like stewarding the Porto Circle, and that's starting in January. And I guess I come into it from a different angle, whereby I have a whole campaign going already called Safety in Numbers. I am a survivor of domestic abuse, and when I was really in the thick of it, I was thinking, in one of my 7 attempts to get out, was thinking, oh my God, what do I do? My passport had been taken by my abuser, and I was like, I really need some sort of digital way to sort this out. I've got 2 dogs, all of that sort of stuff. And so I started planning, and started to think what I needed was Safety in Numbers, and that's the name of the campaign. And when I was trying to work all of this out throughout my experience, I had taken, I guess I'd made diary entries, voice notes, and because there was a serious threat to my person, I'd written and collated all of this together and ended up writing a book, which I now do a weekly podcast where I share the experience of someone that's been in the thick of it and had to kind of get myself out of it. And in and amongst that was like, there needs to be another solution. And what better person to find a solution than someone that was in it? So I looked for community. I looked for community, for other people who would be able to hold a safe space for me to be able to listen, much like this one. Logos Circles for me is a safe space. I was saying to Amelia just this week, as we go into the stressful time of Christmas, it's also a stressful time for me. I was like, you guys might be the only regular thing I do. So, because Amelia had messaged to find out where I was because I couldn't make it one time. And I thought, wow, yeah, this is how meaningful this is to me. Like, you guys in this community is sometimes the most regular thing that I do each week, and whereby I still am kind of in the thick of it. I thank you for that. So there is a whole campaign going on. There's a podcast. And then I was coming up with a solution, and then was looking for tech. I didn't know what I'm doing. I'm nothing to do with tech at all. And so I approached Logos with my idea, and Amelia was like, look, put it into a technical proposal. And I was like, right, okay, and did that. And then here we are. So for me, I went on I was an activist as well, and I went on a protest in Porto, protesting about stopping violence against women. And I was in as you can see from my profile picture here, I was dressed just like that, with my banner, with the QR code for anyone to join the digital community that I run called SAD. And I was approached and asked if I had a permit to protest. So the biggest news from the Porto circle, from me and the campaign, is that we're going to turn SAD, the digital community, into a social enterprise or NGO. So I've enlisted a company to help me do that. And what this then means is that I'm able to then draw down funds, which would be super helpful for me, who's running this solo mission. And it also means then that I'll be able to get funds to hopefully put into a bounty to be able to then get developers, which I gather is a thing to do, to entice developers to help build this app. So that's where we're at. And I have to say that because of the this initiative you're running with Circles, it's just made me have a lot more confidence, just really go for it. And because we're also lobbying, like you, Roxana, we're lobbying the European Parliament, because we're trying to implement a domestic violence disclosure scheme throughout Europe. And with us being able to have a website, then to have a testing bed, I think you call it, for all of us in the community to test Logos tech, it's a really, really brilliant way. So I just want to say thank you. Like, I've gained a lot of confidence and feel that I can keep the community safe whilst I then continue to, get shit going on to ensure that we can look after anyone that's escaping an issue, anyone that just needs a bit of support from an incredible group of highly adaptable survivors who've gotten out alive, quite frankly. So I want to say thank you, and Porto is pumped. We're really excited to go live with our circle in January. And from me, girl, personally, I want to say, if there's anything, because I really feel it's nice to give back, if there's anything that I can do to help anyone else in any of the circles, then please, I'm here, and I'm really motivated. And that's all I've got to say. So thank you.
Thanks, girl. Amazing work in Porto. And especially, I also, and we've mentioned this before, really love the tech component to help the domestic abuse survivors as well. That's critical. Amelia?
Yeah, seeing as how it's the festive holidays and times of celebrating others and giving thanks, I wanted to shout out some really helpful people who have kind of been joining forces with us to make this domestic violence support app a reality. So he's not here today, but he joins the spaces a lot. Mario Alves, who is a local Portuguese Ethereum community builder. I just had a call with him today, and he's really excited to help us. We've been missing each other, right? Like he comes on spaces, we message each other a lot, and finally we got on a call today, and he's like, "Yeah, no, we're gonna make this happen. I'm gonna bring my people. He's gonna help, kind of partner with Girl on the stewardship side. So anything to do with like accepting crypto donations and like building the tech, he's offered to support that and bringing his ETH dev community to the Porto Circle. So I'll let him know he's got a shout out today so he can, when he listens back to this. And also to women in Web3 privacy. We also had an amazing call with the founder of Glitch Armor, which is a website that is kind of 101 privacy onboarding. And she was also amazing and has even said, you know, if you want to use, if the Glitch Armor kind of branding and position is right for this, it could even be a kind of spin-off website or a part of the website. And is just excited to help us build a track for domestic violence survivors. So yeah, it's been very incredible to kind of see people joining forces on such an important issue. And what excites me about this too is that if we can build something in Porto that really works and helps survivors, then we have 21 cities with circles that can help onboard local survivors who need this technology as well.
Yeah, I just want to say absolutely. And like, yeah, we had a really great meeting today. And Amelia, I'm really excited to hear about the other guy that you've spoken with. So yeah, it's just like, thanks so much for that support. Like Amelia's been great at really getting things going on. And yeah, we're really excited. We're going to do this. And if any of you want to check out a campaign that's really worked, like if you want to follow, there's a really amazing group of women in Poland who have just this week won the vote in the European Parliament for autonomy over women's bodies in Europe. It's a huge win. And this was started by a group of girlfriends in Poland. So this is the campaign that I've been following. And this is like the yeah, like huge success. So this is what we're going to do. It's going to be brilliant. Thank you.
Amazing. Yeah, I think too that something just so important and probably close to all of our hearts is the ability to remedy all of these institutional failures, right? Because the domestic abuse issue, the digital ID issue that Roxana is dealing with, the issues in Quinta de Macho that Amelia is dealing with, all of these ultimately stem from the same source problem. That is, there has been widespread and endemic institutional failure all around the world. And when institutions fail, people don't often know where to turn. They don't know what they can do to remedy their problems. And a lot of times this leads people down a dark path where they lose hope, right? So ultimately, I think that's what Logos is about. It's about hope, right? It's about hope for a better future and that we can figure out ways to work together as a community, as a close-knit group of grassroots activists to solve some of these most pressing problems of our times that, you know, on this and on the surface, I think a lot of people see issues like this and they just think, well, they're, you know, if the government or the local corporations or businesses can't help, then it's just, you know, it gets left to the wayside. But we don't believe that things have to be that way. And thinking about the future of what we're working on, figuring out ways to bring people together in communities of high trust is at the center of what we're trying to do at Logos. And so what everyone here is working on is really paving a path to a new future that is colored by holistic betterment. And that's a beautiful vision to me. So I'm really glad that we're all here to take this bull by the horns and to push civil society forward in a way that makes sense for the collective whole. Amelia?
I I think that was a legacy hand, but yeah, I completely agree with you. Like, I think this message is so powerful, right? Like, we don't have to just go the nihilistic route. Like, I kind of get it too, right? Because when you're kind of trapped in a nation state with voting for two different parties, neither of which are actually going to change anything, it's really, really easy to just want to give up. There's no kind of winning there. So yeah, I think the more that we can prove local organizing and rebuilding what civic life can actually be, this is just bound to have a network effect and just start at some point growing exponentially and making huge change.
It was like a perfect comment for a legacy hand. So props to that. I think, by the way, guys, right now is probably a good opportunity to reset the room. We currently will probably go for have another 30-ish to 40 minutes of conversation here. And we can, and I want to first give anyone an opportunity if there was something that was missed in terms of our year of review. By all means, speak now or forever hold your peace. If not, we can kind of move into the next part where we're going to discuss the challenges faced by civil society this year and how everyone here and how anyone who gets involved in circles can help restore it. So it looks like Roxana has her hand up. I don't think it's a legacy hand, as Amelia. So
Not a legacy, not a legacy hand at the moment. I just want to do 3 member shout outs in the Logo Circle London chapter. One is for Arnold, who was amazingly kind enough to mobilize very last minute so I could send him 30 logo zines, and he had them taken to Edge City, Patagonia, and distribute them around the pop-up initiative there. The second one is JP Verne. He's written a scientific article about decentralized social media and has mentioned status and logos there. So it was kind of the first academic mention post the circle. So he's been quite active as well. And the third one is Privacy Mage. We've had him on stage a couple of editions ago. He his project is around AI, but in a way that it takes very relevant discussions and topics and creates a lore around it, and a storybook. It's called a spell book, but it's a storybook where you copy that into your LLM and you generate a proverb. So then you exchange that proverb with someone else, and you'll be essentially forever linked. Your LLM of choice will forever be linked with their LLM of choice, and you can just share interesting cipher, which is this um, and the reason why I want to shout out to him is because I was very fascinated with what he was building. So we've kind of started talking about putting Farewell to Westphalia into a similar project, and we had a 2-hour call on last Friday, and now it's happening. If you go to our Logos Discord channel and you go into the hack space, you will see a preview. But the idea is to create mini video series every week next year and share it so that people understand what we're actually trying to build. But we have taken the book and we've mapped it into chapters, and we've created this kind of characters in a story that communicate based on the themes of the book and based on the values of the book. So it's quite exciting. And I couldn't have done it without him. This is a work in progress, but I really wanted to thank him if he's listening or if he ever checks the recording. And it's just some very nice opportunities that you sort of co-create with your circle members, and they're not part of the agenda, right?
absolutely, Roxanne. There's a lot of really amazing co-creation and an emergence around circles. And I think we're going to continue to see that as we move into the new year, and the circles movement, generally speaking, continues to grow and evolve. So, man, just so excited about how it actually builds out. Do you guys have any last bit of commentary, and then we'll move into this, and I'll invite some folks up to speak as well. If you guys want to have a discussion about restoring civil society as we move into the future and what that even means. I think, okay, so I have Benedict, who's been patient down here and has asked to come up. Okay, so I'm going to approve Benedict, and I'll approve you guys if you want to come up and speak. I will ask that you definitely, and this is general for anyone who comes up, let's try to stay topical, related to the current topic, or even logo circles if it is certainly relevant. And yeah, this should be a really nice discussion. So is there anybody here who has a desire to kick off this particular conversation? Empress is also requesting to come up. Go ahead, Roxana.
There is a topic I would be interested in raising. It was inspired by what Aaron Day mentioned yesterday, around explaining why he goes around with he mentioned he goes around conferences with a laptop and shows people how easy it is to run your own AI agent and your own LLM based on your own resources and not depend on technology developed by others, which is great. But then as we discussed, it kind of rang a bell in terms of, well, just like how we want to have a very much informed communication channel, we're looking at these big tech companies like Palantir going into systems that hold your data, right? And this is health systems, this is banking, this is messaging apps, etc. Social media apps that hold your data. And this provides a very relevant wiki or knowledge base for them to train the next generation of AI and AI technology. So I think the reason why I mention it is because I think it's really interesting to raise the topic of the best way to protect ourselves is really, at least in terms of communication, which is very much natural and day to day, is to explore using applications that value your privacy. So you have this data sovereign, communication data sovereignty in place. And that sort of disincentivizes you from using publicly accessible, free, and most of the times it's never free, but these kind of free social media platforms where, basically we become a harvest for the next generation of AI training. So it's something that we don't really cover as much, but I think it could be an interesting conversation, and I think a lot of people would have interesting perspectives to share because we're all using Twitter.
Yeah, 100%. We can dive into this. This is a really a topic that's close to my heart, and I'm sure everyone here. I mean, what it boils down to, and I'll just have a few brief words, and then I'll let you guys go as well. What it boils down to is, at the end of the day, all of us on the internet that are on these public platforms where they have a terms of service where we have to hand over all of our data, might as well be handing over our firstborn child, right? The way that these platforms are ironed out, but it essentially just turns us into the product. It productizes the human being. So with 100% certainty, the platforms that we're developing, that this ecosystem is developing, that are privacy first, that are decentralization first, that are pro-liberty first, those are the platforms that are going to, and at least should be, the platforms of tomorrow, the ones that we embrace wholeheartedly, and that obviously we don't only use those to empower circles, which is an important part, but really empower the world and the future of the internet so that people can push back against the surveillance apparatus and regime. Because you're right, we don't want to be the product. I mean, of course, when it comes to LLMs and AI, machine learning, generally speaking, there's obviously a lot of good use cases that can come out of that, but there's also a lot of really scary and tremendously horrible use cases that can come out of it, especially the low-hanging fruit in terms of what these companies want to do is they, of course, want to auction off your personal data in real time and use that to create and manufacture ads so that they can have a behavioral profile, right? This is what we've talked about with regard to Shoshana Zuboff's book, right? Surveillance Capitalism, basically turning your data into a behavioral future to be sold on the open marketplace of algorithmic training. So that's one piece of it. But the other piece is that, of course, this data and information can get used by governments itself to surveil you and then to actually harm you in a variety of ways. So, but the beautiful thing is, or the good news, this is where the hope comes into play, is that there are a plethora of tools that we can use that do help protect our privacy, that provide us with more anonymity, and allow us effectively to selectively reveal ourselves to the world as we see fit. Not only in the domain of just raw communication, but of course also in the domain of transactionality. So if we want to use a cryptocurrency that provides us with anonymity, of course, we could get into Monero, or we could use Zano. So the tech, and Aaron was mentioning this yesterday when we had him on the space. The technologies do exist. There are some issues around usability for some users, but the technology is improving in terms of its accessibility, where people can start using it to protect themselves and to empower themselves as technology begins to evolve and continues to evolve to be more privacy and individualistic centric. And this is something, and I'll let you go, one last comment, and this is something that it is not something that we maybe should do. This is something that we absolutely have to, we must do if we're going to protect civil liberties and the future of civic restoration as we move into the future.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand the urgency of this, which is we've indexed the web into an archive essentially that's been used to train the current LLMs to a certain point. So the next step is fresh data, right? Because we've used historical data, meaning search data on Google and other search engines and indexed web pages and Reddit and so on. But now there's a race against time because all of these systems need fresh data to improve and become more performant, which means that the first target will be apps that you use on a daily basis. So if you're using an app on a daily basis and you're not questioning what are the actual privacy rights that you have within that app, that's part of the problem. So that's something that I want to draw attention to, and I think there's something that we want to put it out there as well. It's the urgency of making that switch, or not necessarily completely disregard apps like X or Discord, which are part of day-to-day use, but start using alternatives and start making those alternatives, which are more privacy preserving, part of your daily habits. So it's a bit of an integration into a daily pattern that you already have.
Yep, absolutely. Full integration. I want to comment on that, but I want to give other opportunities to speak for folks who have come up. We have Benedict and Empress who have come up to the stage. I definitely want to give you guys an opportunity to speak to the topic or to something else you heard today. And we're really happy here, by the way, guys, to take this conversation wherever it tends to flow. This is just a natural and spontaneous conversation. Welcome to the stage.
Benedict came up first. I was just allowing him room to.
Hey, Benedict, if you if you have any thoughts or anything you want to say, you're welcome to. Welcome. It's okay if he's
Yeah.
chilling. It's cool.
Well, I came up for the initial thing. It pivoted a little bit. So to the second thing, um, I think that it just continues to be also not just education, but accessibility and ability. Privacy seems more like a luxury than a right these days. Monero, in and of itself, the market cap is going to be prohibitive for a lot of people in accessibility. And I think that like as long like if you start looking at some of this as Maslow's hierarchy and needs type of structure, like if people can't afford it, the education's a little lost on them. I came up initially though about the other prompt because I think that America is it's going to get bad with everything, the 60 Minutes, the Epstein, blah blah blah. And so understanding how Black Pill Day sounds, which is kind of, I mean, I'm in Portland, so I have a very fear-based association with everything that's going on, I will admit. But my suggestion, the proactive piece is kindness in general. I think that a little bit of kindness can go a long way. And I think that it's really not the time. I don't think there's a right side parties. I think it's more if people can present um, impartial, fact-based type responses to a lot of people in kind messaging. I think that's really all that we have within our scope as individuals. But I think that it has to be kind of understood that America, like as bad as it is, it's probably about to get really worse. And so I think a lot of the global populace doesn't necessarily understand this cope and seethe and animosity. So I think just kindness and accessibility overall, for being human. That's kind of what I was coming out to say.
I actually really love that comment, as I think people forget about kindness and the idea of being human because they're so embedded in the political status quo, right? Everyone is really programmed to be at each other's throats, to be constantly fighting and bickering, and really, to some extent, that saps the vitality from our humanity, right? It takes away from the core of what we are, and we're a species that is extremely social and that wants to build connections to other people. So in some way, the structure of our current society, the way that the regime is set up, the way that it pits people against one another is antithetical or goes against human nature on a fundamental level in terms of us needing human connection and needing to be with community. In some ways, I think this is also a byproduct of the fact that our structures have become a monoculture. They've become so large and so unwieldy and so top down and so far and spaced so far apart that this is just the natural progression of that type of system. It is a breakdown in progress, right? So this is also why we booted up Logos Circles, right? This is why more people are creating parallel societies. It's because they want to engender a social setup that makes more sense in accordance with something like Dunbar's number, right? That 150 number of people that can maintain human connections more closely without that cognitive overload, that cognitive break. And this also creates an opportunity for more empathy and more closeness to arise in those communities. So 100% what you said is correct, Empress. Things aren't looking too great in terms of people interactions and connections. But that's exactly and precisely why we're here. This is exactly why people like uh, and this isn't just, of course, strictly speaking to Logos. There's other people in parallel societies and Web3 who are also focusing on bringing back the consciousness of humanity and putting it at the center stage in these spaces, and then also trying to solve problems and to do work like regenerative finance, regenerative ecology, and trying to heal the wounds not only of the planet but of ourselves, right? The deep trauma that's been embedded in all of us as a result of these monocultural systems.
Yeah. And most people don't know a lot about me. I just think a lot of that also comes at meeting people where they're at. One of the things that I do take pride in is nobody knows my political alignment. They can't figure it out because I will move with ease between a white nationalist space and a foundational Black American space to find common ground and make valid points. I can it's a mental exercise. I know I've won if I can get a bunch of followers from whatever I've accomplished in this space without at all catering or pandering to any ideology. So I think that if people can be kind and also depersonalize their message, it tends to work out really well. And I think that if we can keep that in mind, because latent bias can take forms in many ways. Sterling accepted my feedback graciously last time we spoke about how not even realizing if you're coming down as condescending, which I think it's easier in to your point, Sterling, about the structure and how it's set up. I think that we have really slipped into the technocracy more than anything else, and the hate towards each other and the demonizing of education in America is really only serving to hurt the lay people, and the structures of power is just getting reinforced continuously.
Well said, Empress. I 100% agree with that sentiment. Okay, so I want to, if anybody else has comments, we would love to get your thoughts on this subject. We also have a new speaker on the stage, Sele. So the stage is really open right now. I definitely don't want to hog the show here, right? I want you guys to also be engaged. So if anybody has a comment, if not, we can allow Sele to address any of these issues or make comments or ask questions.
All right, GM, everyone. I just got like one simple question though. Hi Empress, hi Sterling. How exactly can logos be integrated? Like, you're trying to build out a Web2 system, and can this be taken over into Web2 and improve stuff in Web2, like with the stack that's already on logos? And yeah, I was trying to Empress. Sorry, I had this like very weird for me to say on this space right now, but I think I was trying to reach out to Empress at some point. Has some hyperlegal and share my mind on. But the main question is like, how exactly can I get this into Web2? If I'm trying to like get some people on board in Web2, how exactly am I going to be able to move this on Web2?
That sounds like maybe a chair question.
I'm not. Can you repeat the question one more time?
So it's basically and logos is basically about like privacy by default tech stack, right? It's like a tech stack that allows for privacy and all. And I'm saying that if I'm trying to get this into Web2, I just embed it in the web. Exactly, can I go about this, or yeah?
All right. So if I understand the question correctly, is how do you take the privacy features that Logos will have and already has via Logos messaging, and bring that to Web2, to the Web2 paradigm, to the Web2 world? Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you can't really, not in a, you can't even really get close, is the short answer, because the client server model that most of the internet runs on currently is inherently untrustworthy. There are things you can do from a personal, like OPSEC, I guess, perspective. But if as soon as you create an account on one of the many sort of almost required places or accounts that you need to just operate or you know, like even creating an email account on a specific device using a specific internet connection already begins to build profiles on you, depending on where that device was bought, what the chain of custody of that device is, what area like your IP is, and geographically where you are. You have like all sorts of trackers and profile builders and data harvesters on you immediately. I you know, there's simple thing like what browser you choose to use, what privacy extensions you might use on top of them, what VPN you might be using. Are you using Linux or some other operating system? Are all things that like you can take into consideration. I it There is a reason that it's so easy to buy a device, boot it up, start using all of the, you know, create one Google account, use that to sign in everywhere. And it's so easy. It's so easy. All of our relatives could do it. Anyone can do it. Like name, password, use it to sign in everywhere. So easy. Never have to think about it again. And there's a reason for that. Is people have been corralled like cattle into using these specific tools. At the same time, the information and education about how to use those more privacy preserving tools is not made available in an easy way. Like you have to seek it out. And it's disjointed, you know, like I think Web3 Privacy Now probably does the best job of putting everything into one place in terms of guides and applications you can use, and you know, having everyone who's sort of building in the space right there that you can follow those threads. But to wind my rant down, like there almost isn't a way beyond those methods that I mentioned earlier. I could be very wrong here, but like unless you're like really going to go and start becoming much more operationally secure than most people are, which you know maybe you should be. Um, I think what Logos is doing is jumps beyond Web3. Web3 sucks, in my opinion. Doesn't exist. Never has. The vision was that you know, Web3, as defined by the good Dr. Wood, was the ecosystem he envisioned if the three protocols defined in the Ethereum white paper circa 2014 were actually shipped. But they weren't shipped. So anybody that says Web3 is a thing, or that they work in Web3, or that they have a Web3 project or product, is either lying to you or themselves or both. Logos forked both of the dropped protocols from the Ethereum Foundation and core devs, being Whisper, now Waku, now Logos messaging. Whisper became Waku, is now Logos messaging, and Swarm is now Logos storage. And those were picked up almost, you know, as immediately as possible after the support was dropped from the EF. So, whatever that original vision of Web3 was supposed to be, Logos is literally the only organization that has been continuing to build on those drop protocols and to build out those drop protocols since they were dropped. And both those teams still exist, yes, but I don't know, do your own research and figure out where they're at versus like Logos messaging is live across the Railgun protocol right now. Not to mention Fileverse, not to mention Safe. So, well, at least the Harbor multi-sig feature of Safe that's in development right now. So, yeah, Web 2 sucks. Web 3 definitely sucks. And Logos is trying to fix a number of those things. And since I have this platform, I'm going to try this out once again. Okay, if Bitcoin and Linux had a baby, and then Ethereum and Tor had a baby, and then those babies grew up, met each other, and they had a baby, that's Logos.
Love it. Love it. By the way, we have this thing now, or at least I created this thing where you guys are familiar with Toastmasters, right? So Chair wins the Toastmaster little blue cute ribbon of the day, right? For the best mic drop of the day, because Web3 indeed sucks, and I think he more than hit the nail on the head. It's okay, yeah. So we'll give you that award, and then for next time, we'll have another. We'll scout out another winner of said weekly award for the Toastmasters little blue ribbon of the day. So thank you, Chair, for that. 100%. That's probably a subject too we could get into as well on a, I think we should also look at covering that particular topic in one of our Thursday spaces. Maybe we can just get the Logos Tech team up here too. Whoever from tech wants to do some speaking with Chair, and we can go into the details of this. But I personally 100% have well, the thing that comes to my mind immediately when Chair speaks, there's this term that we use sometimes in the space to describe what's happening in a lot of the not only the Ethereum community, but the broader quote unquote Web3 community. There's a lot of decentralization theater, right? Where there's a lot of pretense, where people claim that they're more decentralized than they actually are, because it's impossible to be decentralized in a system that has so many options for attack or vectors for attack, right? I think one of the first things that comes to mind is like Web3 wallets, right? So Web3 wallets have been a vector for a lot of attacks. First thing that comes to mind is the North Korean hacker group Lazarus. A lot of the hacks that they've been able to perpetrate on the Web3 ecosystem has been through these web wallets, or also bridges, right? Because bridges have a lot of times there's smart contracts that are upgradable, right, or editable, and these hacker groups are able to capture exploits and then alter the code and then create a hack. This is partly, and this is aside from like social engineering, the Lazarus group has been very deft at being able to accomplish their goals through this process. So this is one of the things that Logos is definitely looking at trying to remedy. And one of the things that I'm passionate about personally is the hope that we actually have some decentralized data storage protocol, right? Because having centralized repositories of data, like through these problems of data warehousing, Amazon, Google, etc., effectively owns all of our data. This goes back into the nice monologue that Roxana also had earlier, where if we don't figure out a way to actually decentralize our data, we're going to completely be at behest to these entities that don't always have our best interest at heart. And we also, of course, continue to open ourselves up to hacking attacks. There's only one, and this is just me giving a random shout out to a project that I personally respect. No shill. This is just legitimate information. So one of the things that Colt DAO actually did to rectify this is they revoked all of their keys. They created their decentralized protocol, right, for venture capital, and then they just revoked all the keys and made the contract where it's non-upgradable. So it's effectively just a machine now that works. Of course, there's downsides to that too. Thinking about Ethereum, if you can't upgrade and then be able to leverage layer 2 at all in the Ethereum ecosystem, well, that means that in a lot of ways your protocol is going to be limited, because you can't, right there. Now you have a problem with gas fees. Anytime gas fees get exorbitantly high, then it basically makes the voting apparatus in your network tremendously difficult to, like the friction there is too difficult for people to use in those times. And this is not constituting or counting in all of the problems around the lack of systems control for the voting mechanisms that is sometimes missing in Web3 as well. Anyway, this is a nice mess, a nice tangle that we can get into at another point. If anybody else has any commentary on this subject or other ones, by all means, let's break it down.
I had 2 comments. You don't realize how not decentralized you are until you get hacked, which happened to me this week. Yeah, that was unpleasant and alarming. I was fortunate. I'm on a blockchain that the hackers have not updated the bots for, so I actually didn't lose anything. But the lockdown on the rest of the accounts and everything else, it was like, yeah, I suck at this decentralization thing, so I'm just gonna get better at that. But I also am workshopping if it works. I think I've designed a hot wallet that's tradable that will allow. We'll see. I'm working out the specs on it. And then I think it was Roxana brought up the AI thing, and I just wanted to say I think that would be worth a deeper conversation outside of the privacy aspect. It reinforces false narratives. It could radicalize extremist stuff like that. So I've also I was up till like 3:30 writing a protocol prompt that can be put into research threads to keep the model within the parameters to give good information. So I'm finishing that as well. So just some things that might be worth further discussion.
Yeah, good point. I'm sure that we would be more than happy to have a space and dedicate it to discussing the AI piece, and especially with relation to what you said, Empress, aside from the privacy component. So let's keep that also on the docket for a possible future space. I think right now, by the way, we have about 10 minutes left in the space. So if there's anybody else who wants to come up and has a question or a comment with regards to what we've been talking about today, you're welcome to the stage. In the meantime, I want to give the opportunity for any of the speakers, if there's any final takeaways with regards to Logos Circles or the conversation today. Right now is a good time to address those.
I would
I-
just sorry, Amelia.
after you, Roxana.
No, I was just gonna mention to Empress, if you can just drop me a message, a DM or something. The same username I have on X is also on Telegram. If that works better, I'd be very happy to check over the holidays while you're building.
Yeah, no problem. I've always refined the prompt probably later today. So I will send that over to you because I was probably going to end up tweeting it out so that people could use it at will. So no problem.
I was just gonna give a shout out. If anybody would like to start a circle in their city, we have 21 active cities right now, but we'd love to reach 60 active circles next year. So even if you've never organized this type of thing before, even if you're not an activist, if these kind of ideas are compelling to you, and you'd be interested in learning more, we have a very useful link on the logos.co website where you can book a call with someone from the Logos team. And yeah, just learn a little bit more about it, share something about yourself, and we'd love to kind of get you started and prepare you with a toolkit you would need to run your first circle. So hopefully see and meet lots more of you in the new year, potentially with your circles you'll be stewarding.
Bravo. I think also if there's anybody who wants additional information, we can plug in the Logos Circle website, probably in the Megatron above. And of course, you can reach out to Amelia or any of us that are on this panel here, and we're happy to provide you with more information. And just remember, I think a lot of people too, they may think of circles, well, that's a lot of work and commitment. And where that's true, there's also a lot of reward that can come with developing a circle, because you're actually contributing to your community. You're contributing to develop a hyper local mindset. You're potentially contributing to regenerating the commons and regenerating the institutions and ultimately our planet, right, in a lot of different ways. So by all means, don't hesitate to reach out, even if you have a passing interest or you think, because I think this is one of the things too that very few people who are working in the crypto, in the sphere of crypto, they're not always focused on what can we actually do in the real world to solve problems. There's a lot of pump and dump, and there's a lot of craziness as it concerns the token economics, but how about the people that are involved in these communities, or even if they're not directly involved, what about people generally who are suffering and maybe need some technology or technological support, or just need help from folks who have resources and who have communities that can actually create change and transformation in some local area? This is exactly what we did at Zanzalu, right? I know that we've talked about that a million times in the space, but it's one of the best case studies of actually creating change in a community that needs it, leveraging the networks and the pipelines that we have in the crypto industry, right? We were able to get 10 Raspberry Pis for that educational center in Zanzibar. So that's something we're going to continue to try to uplift, and also an idea that we want to continue to spread through circles. Any more comments, guys?
I could bring something up if we have a few more minutes. Maybe again a deeper discussion for the future, but there's been a lot of discussions lately about what's going on with Aave DAO. The fact that voting went live today. The founder of Aave voted against. There was there were two voters that abstained, and essentially it turned into a situation where the DAO is deemed essentially useless, with the outcome of potential questions like who actually owns the protocol if the DAO running the protocol can be outvoted by specific individuals that own a certain amount of voting power. And I think that's an interesting it's an interesting topic and an interesting conversation, tying into governance and the just governance and how we deal with ownership of ideally what is supposed to be a public good, right? Because it's supposed to be decentralized, it's supposed to be open to anyone to use it, and not have entry bottlenecks that we have in traditional systems.
Absolutely, we should have that discussion at some point, right? This goes into concepts around fair launch for cryptocurrency projects, and also there's some massive critiques that we can potentially have on like proof of stake, because in some of these ecosystems with proof of stake, it's kind of like the first people involved get to be the major shareholders of whatever the token is, and then they can effectively pump and dump. In some ways, some of these, and this is just true historically, these projects have just ended up being like Ponzi schemes, right? So trying to figure out ways that we can rectify that, and that is to your point, Roxana, where that's just a situation of poor governance and just unfair launch protocols within the context of these communities. This has happened so many times. Like we could name so many projects. I mean, this was basically a good chunk of the projects in 2017 during the ICO boom, right? Where they just ended up fizzling away. And this is not to say that everyone involved was potentially a bad actor. Maybe they had good intentions, but they just ended up failing. But there were certainly some bad actors involved as well. So we got to always keep that in mind. And everyone, this is just goes for crypto in general. This is basic level stuff. Just understand that anything that any project that you get involved in could have risks. So definitely do your own due diligence, understand who's involved in the project, maybe even have a professional consultation if necessary. And again, anything that we say here with regard to projects is, of course, not financial advice. These are all just our opinions. But my personal, just having worked in crypto for the last 10 years, I've saw too many people get scammed. I've worked at crypto exchanges, and we had people come to us talking about how the project wasn't fair. They took my coins. There's just been so many different issues. That would definitely, we should go over this in a space, maybe even as a warning and some tips on what to do and what not to do. Of course, with the justification that this is just our own understanding of the ecosystem. But yeah, good point, Roxana. Cool. I guess right now is probably a great time to wrap it up. I hope that everyone got to speak their piece. We had an amazing space today. Actually, we had even, considering that we're moving right up to Christmas, we gained quite a few folks in here. And I just want to thank all of you guys for coming in and engaging with the conversation, and at very least listening and considering what everyone had to say. So I want to thank the speakers who came up, the original panelists. So that was Amelia, Chair, Roxana, the Logos account, and Girl. Thank you so much for being part of the space. Empress, thanks for coming up and engaging with the conversation. You're always welcome anytime. Also the OGs who have been in the space and continue to come. So we have, I think we have Chroma down there, RGM, Uzair, who's been with us for eternity, it feels like. Same thing with Tiger and Matthew. Thank you. There's some new folks in the space. Oh, we have Crypto Marina down there. Thanks for being here. Lalo, OGs, Cecilia. For any of you guys who are new in the space, just remember that with Logos and Logos Circles, we're trying to create actual community change on a fundamental level, trying to create transformation in our local communities, and also trying to deliver the tech stack that actually provides those crypto anarchist and cypherpunk values that have not came to fruition in the Web3 space, as Chair so eloquently pointed out earlier. So let's keep trumpeting and championing the cause of restoring civil liberty and creating actual privacy-centric technologies as we move into the future. I can't wait to see how Circles continues to unfold and evolve. And so thank you all so much for being part of this movement and community, and feel free to follow any of the accounts and any of the speakers that were up here and to share any of the Logos material. And one last thing that I'll mention, if you go to logos.co, you can pick up a book that has a lot of the ideas that the founder Jared Hope and philosopher Peter Ludlow wrote, called Farewell to Westphalia. Go to logos.co and navigate to Farewell to Westphalia, and you can pick up the book for free as the open source version, or you can navigate to Amazon and purchase a copy there. So thanks again, friends. This has been an amazing space.
That's cool. Are we all hearing the music right now?
Correct.
Tight.
Cheers, guys. Much love. Just oh yeah, the last thing that I do want to mention is that our holiday schedule, we're going to do Monday and Tuesday spaces again. Thursday space is substituted with Monday. So see you guys on Monday. Cheers, and happy holidays to you guys who celebrate the holidays this season. Much love.